Family meant everything to me. That was what I had always believed, what I had built my life around. Rachel and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5. We had a strong bond, or so I thought. Our connection felt unbreakable, woven together by trust, passion, and the kind of love that made everything else in the world seem small. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Late-night talks, spontaneous road trips, stolen kisses when no one was watching. Those were the moments that defined us. Rachel had been my best friend long before she became my wife, and I never imagined a day would come when I'd question everything. That day arrived on a warm summer evening, beneath the glow of string lights in my parents' backyard. My mother had insisted on a family gathering, saying it had been too long since everyone had been in the same place. I had no reason to doubt her intentions. The air buzzed with conversation as I sat next to Rachel, sipping whiskey while the rest of my family mingled. My younger brother Derek stood across from me, pouring himself a drink. His gaze lingered on Rachel longer than I liked, but I ignored it. "Big meeting next week?" he asked casually, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I nodded. Could be a game changer. Rachel shifted beside me, fingers curling around the stem of her wine glass. Her grip was tight. Too tight. I turned to her, frowning. "You okay?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Just a little tired." Before I could press further, Derek suddenly cleared his throat and stepped forward. His voice rang out over the conversations. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The chatter died instantly. All eyes turned toward him. He straightened his shoulders, exuding confidence, but something in his expression felt off. Then he spoke. "Mom and Dad decided I marry your wife." The words crashed into me like a wrecking ball, leaving only destruction in their wake. The air grew heavy, suffocating. My fingers went numb around my glass, the whiskey forgotten. Silence stretched as everyone absorbed what he had just said. My parents exchanged knowing looks, my mother giving a small nod as if encouraging Derek to continue. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "What the hell are you talking about?" Derek didn't flinch. "Rachel and I are getting married." Rachel's body stiffened beside me. I turned to her, searching for an explanation, for any sign that this was some twisted joke. But her face was pale, her lips parted, and her breathing unsteady. "You're joking," I said, my voice dangerously low. No one laughed. Rachel swallowed, hard, her fingers trembling. "I didn't want you to find out like this." A slow, cold realization settled in my gut. "Find out what?" Derek smirked. "She's been with me for a while now, brother." The world tilted. Blood roared in my ears, my pulse pounded, each beat hammering against my ribs like a warning of impending destruction. "No," I breathed. "No, Rachel, tell me he's lying." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't deny it. "She didn't say a damn word. You've lost your damn mind." My voice shook as I turned to my parents. "And you? You knew about this?" My father sighed, placing his glass down. "It's for the best." "For the best?" I echoed, barely able to process the absurdity. My mother stepped forward, her voice gentle, as if she was offering me some kind of mercy. "You travel too much. Your work consumes you. Rachel needs someone who can be there for her." Disgust twisted inside me. "And you thought Derek was the solution?" Derek had always been the favorite, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. And now they were handing him my wife as if she were some prize to be awarded. Rachel wiped, a tear from her cheek, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant for it to happen." "But you let it," I spat. Derek placed a hand on Rachel's back, a gesture so possessive it made my stomach turn. "We're in love." I shot to my feet, rage boiling over. "You think love justifies this betrayal, deception?" Rachel flinched but didn't move away from him. My father's tone turned firm. "It's done. You need to accept it." The weight of their betrayal crushed me. The woman I had given my life to, the brother I had grown up protecting, the parents, who were supposed to love me, All had ripped my world apart. I took a shaky breath, my hands clenching into fists. You expect me to just step aside? You don't have a choice, Derek said smugly. A dangerous calm settled over me, the kind that came before the storm. I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding but my mind sharpening. I had walked into this gathering as a husband, a son, a brother, but I was leaving as something else entirely. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Shock clung to my skin like sweat. The backyard, once a place of warmth and familiarity, now felt like enemy territory. My own family had stripped away everything I held dear. My wife, my trust, my dignity, without a second thought. Rachel stood, next to Derek, shifting uncomfortably under my glare. Her silence cut deeper than any confession could. My chest tightened as I fought to steady my breathing. You're serious? I finally managed, my voice raw. You actually expect me to just accept this? Derek folded his arms, his smirk infuriating. It's not about what you accept, brother. It's about what's happening. Rachel and I love each other. Mom and Dad support us. You need to move on. I turned to my parents, desperately searching for a crack in their resolve. You're really standing behind this? Selling me out like this? My mother sighed as if I were the one being unreasonable. You've always been too focused on your career, sweetheart. Rachel needs more than a husband who's barely home. So what? I scoffed, shaking my head in disbelief. Your solution was to hand her over to Derek like a goddamn consolation prize? Rachel flinched. Derek, however, simply shrugged. You weren't enough for her, he said matter-of-factly. Rage surged through my veins, hot and violent. I took a step forward, my jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Say that again. Derek held his ground, unfazed. She came to me, brother, not the other way around. A bitter laugh escaped my throat. That's supposed to make it better? You think that excuses what you did? Rachel finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't plan for this, I swear. I turned on her, my stomach twisting. Then why? Why him? Why my own damn brother? She looked away, guilt shadowing her features. It just happened. Bullshit. Nothing just happens. Affairs don't fall out of the sky. Betrayal takes effort. Lies require planning. She had made a choice, over and over again. And what about you? I snapped at my parents. Did you ever consider what this would do to me? Or was I always just the backup son? My father exhaled through his nose, clearly done with my outburst. This isn't about you, it's about what's best for Rachel and Derek. I blinked, stunned at the audacity. Best for them? I echoed. And what am I then? Just collateral damage? Derek chuckled. Come on, man, you'll be fine. You always bounce back, right? The arrogance, the entitlement. He had taken everything from me and he was acting like he had done me a favor. I wanted to hit him. Badly. Instead, I turned to Rachel, giving her one last chance to say something, anything that would make this hurt less. Do you love him? She hesitated. Too long. I felt my heart crack. Finally, she nodded. Yes. Pain twisted deep in my chest, but I refused to let it show. I inhaled sharply, forcing myself to stay in control. Then I hope he ruins you. Rachel gasped. My mother called my name in warning. Derek, of course, laughed. Relax, man. No hard feelings, yeah? No hard feelings? He had no idea. I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving behind the wreckage of the life I had built. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Walking away from that backyard felt like peeling off my own skin. The betrayal, the sheer audacity of it all, burned through me like acid. But I wasn't the kind of man to collapse under pressure. No. If they thought I would roll over and accept this humiliation, they had seriously underestimated me. Rachel, my wife, the woman who once whispered love into my ear, had chosen my brother. Derek, the smug bastard who had always envied me, thought he had won. And my parents, the very people who were supposed to have my back, had made it clear they didn't give a damn about me. Fine. They wanted to play games? I'd show them how it was done. For the next few weeks, I kept my head down. No calls, no messages. I gave Rachel exactly what she wanted. Space. My silence unnerved her. She had probably expected rage, desperate pleas, or drunken voicemails. Instead, I vanished from her world. But while I was silent, I wasn't idle. First, I moved all my money into private accounts. Rachel had always been comfortable, enjoying the life I had provided. That was about to change. I drained our shared savings and closed the credit cards under my name. Then I hired a private investigator. If Rachel and Derek had been sneaking around behind my back, I wanted every detail. And the results? Beautiful. Turns out their affair had started a year ago. Hotel receipts, secret getaways, late-night rendezvous. It was all there. They weren't just careless. They were arrogant. Derek had even bragged about it to friends. That was their mistake, and I would make sure they paid for it. A month later, the perfect opportunity arrived. Derek and Rachel's engagement party. My parents, in their infinite cruelty, had invited me. Maybe they thought I had moved on. Maybe they just wanted to rub it in. Either way, I RSVP'd with a smile. They had no idea what was coming. The venue was an upscale restaurant, packed, with family and friends. Laughter and champagne flowed freely. At the center of it all stood Rachel, dressed in a soft blue gown, her arm hooked around Derek's. They looked happy. They wouldn't be for long. I stepped inside, drawing glances. Whispers spread through the crowd. Some looked uncomfortable. Others avoided my gaze. My parents greeted me stiffly, clearly surprised I had shown up. Derek, however, grinned. "Didn't think you'd come," I smirked. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Rachel swallowed hard, eyes searching mine. "How have you been?" "Fantastic," I said smoothly. "And you?" She hesitated. "Good. Glad to hear it." I let the moment stretch, just long enough to make them squirm. Then I clapped Derek on the shoulder. "Big step, huh? Marrying your brother's wife?" The room fell silent. Derek chuckled, but it sounded forced. "What's done is done, man. No hard feelings, right?" I grinned. "Oh, none at all." Then I raised my glass. "A toast." Rachel tensed. Derek frowned. My parents exchanged nervous glances, but no one stopped me. I turned to the crowd. "To Derek and Rachel. A love story built on trust, loyalty, and... oh, who am I kidding?" I laughed, shaking my head. "Built on lies sneaking around, and of course betrayal." Gasps rippled through the guests. Derek's face darkened. Rachel's eyes widened in horror. "What the hell are you doing?" Derek growled. I ignored him. "Did you all know they were together while she was still my wife?" Oh, and here's a fun fact. Derek, being the generous brother he is, started sleeping with Rachel a full year before she left me. Rachel paled. "Stop." "Why?" I asked innocently. "Afraid they'll know the truth?" Derek lunged at me, but I sidestepped, easily. "Not so fast, brother. You wouldn't want to make a scene at your own party, would you?" My father's voice was sharp. "Enough, son." I turned to him. "You lost the right to call me that when you picked him over me." He flinched. "Good." Rachel reached for me, her voice shaking. "Please, just let it go." I met her gaze, seeing the regret beneath the surface. It didn't matter. I leaned in, my voice low. "I told you, Rachel. I hope he ruins you." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't need to stay. The damage was already done. The stunned silence behind me was satisfying, but I wasn't done yet. No, this wasn't just about exposing them. It was about making sure they felt every ounce of humiliation and pain they had put me through. I strode out of the restaurant, leaving Rachel and Derek scrambling to save face. But just as I reached the exit, I paused. A smirk curled at my lips. They deserved worse. So, I turned back. The moment I stepped inside again, all eyes locked onto me. Rachel's face was drained of color. Derek's jaw clenched so tight it looked painful, and my parents? Well, they looked like they wished the earth would swallow them whole. Perfect. Almost forgot, I called out, raising my voice so everyone could hear. There's one last little detail I should share before I go. Rachel inhaled sharply. Please don't. Oh, but I have to. I cut her off smoothly, enjoying the way her desperation twisted her features. See, while Rachel was busy playing house with Derek, she made a little mistake. The murmur of the crowd grew louder. I could feel the curiosity thick in the air. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small, folded envelope. Derek scoffed. More drama? Just leave already. I chuckled. You're going to want to see this, little brother. With a flick of my wrist, I tossed the envelope onto a nearby table. It slid across the surface, stopping right in front of Rachel. Her hands trembled as she picked it up, hesitating before finally pulling out the paper inside. She read it, then gasped. Derek snatched it from her grasp, scanning the words quickly. His face darkened, his entire body going rigid. What the hell is this? He whispered, voice barely audible. I crossed my arms. That, dear brother, is a paternity test. The crowd's murmur turned into a full-blown eruption of whispers. My parents stiffened, their eyes darting between us. Rachel shook her head violently. No, this isn't. Oh, it is. I cut in, my grin widening. See, I had my suspicions. Rachel was acting strange toward the end of our marriage, and after everything blew up, I started putting the pieces together. Derek was breathing hard, his grip tightening around the paper. You're lying, I laughed. Read the name at the bottom. That's the DNA testing lab. Completely legitimate. Rachel's eyes brimmed with tears. She turned to Derek, reaching for him. Baby, please. I didn't know, I thought. Derek jerked away from her touch, face twisted in disbelief. You told me the baby was mine. Oh, that was the best part. Yeah, I drawled, tilting my head. Turns out she got pregnant before she ever left me. And guess what? It's not yours. Derek staggered back like I had punched him. He clutched the letter, as if hoping it would rewrite itself. Rachel sobbed, shaking her head over and over again. I let the moment sink in before delivering the final words they needed to hear. Congratulations, Derek. You stole my wife. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. But the baby? That's mine. Derek's face contorted in rage, but he didn't speak. He couldn't. Rachel collapsed into a chair, her body shaking, tears spilling down her cheeks. My parents looked at me like they didn't recognize me anymore. I didn't care. I adjusted my jacket, exhaling in satisfaction. Well, this has been fun, I said, turning toward the exit again. Enjoy your engagement. Then, without looking back, I walked out. This time, for good. I had lost a wife, a family, but I had won something greater, freedom. And revenge had never tasted so sweet.